Okay.
All right. Good evening. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, June 17th, 2024 to order. The city strongly recommends that you review tonight's agenda carefully, and if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, then please bring your comment cards to the clerk as soon as possible. While the Milton rules allow a speaker to turn in their comment card up until the clerk calls the agenda item, once the agenda item is called, no more comment cards can be accepted. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I call roll for the June 17th, 2024 regular City Council meeting, I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card and submit to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. All speakers, when called to the podium, will identify themselves with their name, address, and/or organization before beginning your comment. If you are representing an organization, a notarized affidavit is required stating you have the authority to speak on behalf of that organization. If you would like to make a public comment, please bring your comment cards to me now. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outburst, or dialogue with any person speaking. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. Mayor and Council, as I call roll this evening, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Peyton Jamison.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea Veerhoff.
Here.
Councilmember Juliet Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Carol Kirkley.
Here.
Councilmember Jan Jacobus.
Present.
And Councilmember Phil Cranmer.
Here.
For the record, Councilmember Doug Haney is absent. Mayor, you do have a quorum. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is approval of the meeting agenda. I would like to add an executive session to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and potential litigation. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as suggested.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cranmer and a second from Councilmember Johnson to approve the meeting agenda with the addition of the executive session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Next is general public comment. Do we have any general public comment?
We have one, Mayor.
Okay, the next item is general public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and the city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Please remember this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes for remarks. The city encourages you to review the agenda, and if you wish to speak, to bring your comment cards to the city clerk right now. Will the city clerk please call the first public speaker?
Thank you, Mayor. As a reminder, general public comment allots that members of the public may speak for 5 minutes. I will announce when 1 minute remains and will notify you when time has expired. Mayor, I invite Sarah Moen to the podium, please.
Sarah Moen, 130 Providence Plantation Drive. People with disabilities comprise the largest minority group worldwide. I once heard someone say that each of us will likely be impacted by disability at some point in our lives, whether by birth, an accident, disease, or aging. It is likely that most of us won't escape this reality. Therefore, this is not a me issue, but an us issue. You have all met my son Eli, so I'd like to speak on his behalf about representation, or lack thereof, of this group within the city's parks. In 2019, the city nixed the plans to add an all-inclusive playground at the Milton City Park and Preserve. It wasn't the right place, too dangerous, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then again, in 2023, the all-inclusive playground slated for Providence Parks Phase 1 was booted from the list because it was considered to be an unsuitable location for the playground. As was noted in the March Parks and Rec meeting, all 7 weeks of Camp Joyful Souls this summer were filled within days of opening to the public. There's a reason for that. 210 slots open to Milton residents and non-residents are hotter commodities than tickets to a sold-out Taylor Swift concert. And families like mine have to jump on them, hope they meet the application and interview requirements, or lose out. Additionally, Camp Joyful Souls, like most resources for special needs individuals, cap out at 22 years of age, when most of your kids or grandkids are graduating from college and moving on to their new independent adult lives. Our special kiddos are not. They are the long-term, permanent residents of Milton, and they are grossly underrepresented in the Milton Park system. ADA compliance is important, but that really is just a small part of the picture. My husband, son, and I often walk the trails at the Milton Parks. We love when we see someone with ambulatory issues who is able to enjoy the paved trail at Providence Park, but that trail is not enough to meet the needs of the entire disabled community in Milton. Active park space is limited, I understand, and everyone wants to make sure that their needs are met. There's a court, a field, a pool available for whatever sport their child participates in. Looking at the current plans of the proposed Deerfield Park, it's hard to imagine where the city could squeeze in an all-inclusive playground, but it would be amazing if space for one could be found. How fantastic would it be for the city of Milton to be known as hosts of Special Olympics teams at a park that it could accommodate these amazing individuals. While an all-inclusive playground would be great, the city owns enough passive park space that could also accommodate the needs of our special community. Honestly, a set of swings for children and adults of all ages tucked in near the Old Wolf House at the Lackey Road Park would be a dream. Existing plumbing could be used for a bathroom and maybe even a water feature. Swings and water. I know my kiddo would be drawn to them like a moth to a flame. At last week's council work session, the Mayfield property co-owned with the city of Alpharetta was discussed as part of the 2025 budgeting process. That property is not within the Milton city limits and already sounds as if it's a financial burden to us. Sell our half to the city of Alpharetta, the appropriate owners of that property, since it is within their city limits, and earmark that money for park space for our disabled population. We need some safe space for them to be themselves, and for us, their caregivers, to let our guards down and experience some normalcy for just a moment or two. While the city's discussions for active park space continue, I hope that you either reconsider an all-inclusive playground at one of the existing active or passive park locations, or as an addition to the new active park space the city is in the process of acquiring. Our Milton citizens with disabilities are as deserving as any others of recreational space to fit their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other speakers?
That concludes public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment and I will move on to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please sound the items?
Mayor, item A is approval of the June 3rd, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 24177. B is approval of the June 10th, 2024 city council work session meeting minutes. Agenda item number 24178. C is approval of task order number 1 between the City of Milton and Lowe Engineers for drainage improvement project concepts at 13 various locations. Agenda item number 24179. Next is approval of a facility rental and court use agreement with Jump for Joy Basketball, doing business as Shoot 360 Atlanta, to lease gymnasium space for the city's youth basketball leagues and camps. Agenda item number 24180. E is approval of an agreement between the City of Milton and Orkin and Associates for a temporary license agreement of Lacoma Trace for Crabapple Festival. Agenda item number 24181. F is approval of a use of facilities agreement with Crabapple First Baptist Church, doing business as Milton Community Church, to lease gymnasium space for the city's youth basketball program. Agenda item number 24182. G is approval of subdivision plats and revisions. The name of the development is Crown Line Homes. It's located at 14940 and 14950 Freemanville Road. It's land lot 599, District 2, Section 2. It's a minor plat to relocate the existing dividing property line to create a 3-acre tract and a 2.5-acre tract with a total of 5.5 acres with a density of 0.36 lots per acre. Mayor Jameson?
Thank you. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. There are no reports and presentation items. Moving on to first presentation, will the city clerk please sound the items?
That item A is consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 22, Fire Prevention and Protection in Appendix A of the Milton Code of Ordinances to establish Article 3 Fire Code, Division 2 Regulations to create Section 22 through 71 Electric Vehicle Charging Station and approve associated fees. Agenda item number 24184. Mayor Jameson.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on the first presentation item?
Make a motion that
on the
we
first
approve.
presentation item, item number 24184.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cranmer, a second from Councilmember Verhoff to approve the first presentation items as read. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. There are no public hearing, zoning agenda, or unfinished business items. Moving on to new business, will city clerk please sound the item?
That item A is consideration of an approval of a conflict waiver on behalf of the city attorney, Gerard and Davis LLP, such that Gerard and Davis may represent both Milton and Alpharetta in drafting and having approved a multi-city agreement with EMS Ventures doing business as American Medical Response for the purpose of enhancing and sustaining EMS service levels within the city limits of each of the cities. It's agenda item number 24185. Our city attorney, Mr. Ken Gerard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, bring this to you from time to time when we have these sorts of issues where we represent both Milton and Alpharetta or other of our clients. And again, these are contracts where we're really negotiating in tandem with the provider as opposed to against one another of the governments themselves. If I truly had a conflict where I believed that I was not able to zealously represent Milton's interests, I would not take part in any of it. This one is simply one that protects me.
Okay, any questions for Ken?
No, but I like the synergy on this one.
Okay.
That kind of contract.
Very good. I agree. Do we have any public comment on this?
There are none.
Okay, I'll close public comment and I will open it for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we approve agenda item number 24-185.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Jacobus to approve agenda item number 24-185. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Item B is consideration of service level agreement between the City of Milton and EMS Ventures doing business as American Medical Response, known as AMR, for sustaining EMS service levels. Agenda item number 24186. Our fire chief, Chief Gray Ben Musa.
Good evening, Mayor Council. I'm here to provide you a little bit of an update on the contract that we have before you. Just give you a little bit of a background. Back a few months, almost a year ago, we received a notice from AMR that for non-renewal of the contract, the service agreement level that we have. Well, actually, we didn't have a formal one, but because they own the zone. So that kind of sort of pushed us into to work together with AMR, but to approach it as a North Fulton cities because they provide to all the 5 cities. So we got together, started working with AMR. Our city managers also engaged in the conversation. So I want to give you a little bit of an overview to how we got where we at right now with this service level agreement that you have before you. So a little bit of a background. The ambulance service is governed by the state of Georgia under the OCGA Chapter 3111. It provides how the service zones are distributed in the sense, and most of them are county-based. I think the Fulton area is very, very unique because Fulton County had given that to, it would belong to rural metro. And then when Fulton County sort of dissolved fire and EMS, it just stayed with rural until it got purchased by AMR. AMR purchased rural metro, so they inherited the ambulance. So Fulton County relinquished that zone back in 2009. So since then, since 2014, after acquiring rural metro, the ambulance service was provided by AMR. So at the time, and until now, there were no existing, in a sense, for us as a city, any specific agreements to response times. Okay, we need the responses to be 12 minutes, 15 minutes. We just, because they own the zone. So there is really nothing. It's the region that handles that Region 3. So we had no existing contractual compliance agreements, no way for us to, in a sense, to enforce any of it. So some of the regional challenges because of COVID, the staffing and operational costs that have greatly increased over the years, and also the lack of paramedics. Not as many paramedics are coming out of schools. Not as many people want to be firefighters and paramedics anymore. So they and it's challenging because they're competing against us as well. And typically, a lot of people prefer to work for a city and municipal fire department versus private ambulance companies, just because of it's just how it is historically. The other thing too, in the state of Georgia, there's not a specific reimbursement for ambulance transports, like we're a set rate. The insurance commission does not set those rates. So whatever the insurance company, if let's say the ambulance company bills $2,000 for an advanced life support, the insurance company can choose to reimburse $500, and then the rest of it, it's on the patient. So there's not, in some states, like in California, you have to pay a certain amount. The insurance companies have to pay a specific amount. We don't have that here. So, and as far as Medicare or Medicaid, they set the rates, and those are sort of nationwide. That's what they pay, and that's what they pay. So that created some challenges, obviously, for EMR. And then also the availability of ambulances because of long hospital wait times as well. So that's another challenge, because we've had ambulances that were held up for up to 90 minutes. So that has a ripple effect in the system, in a sense, where we don't have any ambulances available for transports. So some of the things that we did during this period is we introduced certain solutions to kind of help the system. So we reclassified some responses to fire response only to keep the ambulances in service. For example, before in our response codes, like a gas leak, we would dispatch an ambulance as well. So we did away with that. Also, dispatching an ambulance on structure fires automatically, we did away with that unless it's an actual confirmed working fire. Then we could have them there for safety, in an effort to keep the ambulances in service. We're working on telehealth right now, and obviously our Fire Cares community paramedic program was able to reduce 66% of a reduction in 911 calls from patients. So those are some of the things that we did to help sort of maintain the level of ambulances, the availability of ambulances in the system. And we didn't have sort of an ambulance assigned to Milton. They have a posting plan, and it just depends where the need is. Sandy Springs had their own sort of agreement with AMR, separate before this agreement. So they had to maintain so many units in there, and because of the agreement, they couldn't just send out units out of Sandy Springs to help the other cities. Only if it was approved, or only if it was maybe a BLS unit, or so it just depends on the need. So, luckily for us, we have advanced life support on all our units. So we get on scene, we have an average response, and I'll be able in July to provide you with an annual report. We have lowered our response time to about 6 minutes and 10 seconds from 7 minutes from last year. So within 6 minutes, we have an advanced life support unit there, or we have a paramedic on each one of our units. So we're able to provide that advanced life support, not rely solely on the ambulance to have a medic, which is in some other cities, that's what they do. They're first responders, and they just rely on the ambulance. And there's not that many ambulances, and they're busy, so it could affect the level of service. The transport is provided by AMR. Like I said, we don't have any dedicated units, so a lot of times they might get posted here, then they get pulled to Roswell or Johns Creek. We have the lowest call volume out of all the 5 cities. No contractual checks and balances, we don't have that. And then we supplement the transport sometimes. We average about 10 a year. However, per state rules, we can only transport under 3 sort of like requirements. One, it has to be if a physician orders it. Number 2 is if we don't have any units available, we're at level 0. That means ambulances, AMR ambulances, and then if it's a critical. So that happens from time to time, we will transport. But however, we're not sort of like certified by, licensed by the state to be a transport, and we cannot function as a backup in the sense only under those three conditions, but not a normal backup to AMR. So, but we average about 10 and it works pretty good because we have our own sort of ambulance in the city. So the current subsidy that was negotiated, currently AMR provides 72,269 unit hours system-wide. That is including Sandy Springs. And with this subsidy, we are buying up an additional 13,714 unit hours at a cost of about $150 per unit hour. The annual North Fulton ambulance subsidy cost is about $2 million, a little bit over $2 million. That's for all 5 cities. So the Milton cost is about $167,000 based on a 3-year average calls and population. So some of the agreement highlights, some of the things that we were able to put in place as we work together with AMR is having a dynamic deployment model, meaning not just post units where we just think we're going to post them. We're going to base it on data. We're going to look at where predictive, sort of like based on historical, where the next call, potentially what time of the day, where do we see an increase in calls, what area. So that will help post those ambulances where they need to be. Next thing is we have a contractual response time for critical calls, high acuity calls of 12 minutes. We also have a sort of like a schedule for liquidated damages or fines if the contractual obligations are not met. And then also the staffing model, there will be a minimum of 1 paramedic and a minimum of 1 EMT for the ambulance, which will augment the response, the service level. And then because we're buying up those additional hours, that's going to increase the number of ambulances available to respond, as well as bring in Sandy Springs with the North Fulton cities together as one agreement. That also helps the system. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Chief, what's the timing for that to go into effect?
I believe July 1st. Yeah, thank you.
And the review period on their performance metrics before
6
any?
months.
6 months.
So our first review will be 6 months. Yes, sir.
Good
And
luck.
they're, as part of the agreement, they're also acquiring a third-party software that we will have our medical services officers from all the 5 cities will have access to, like an admin access, so that the CAD data and everything else sort of goes into that software, which is First Watch. We would able to, as a third-party software, to be able to provide reports for response compliance. So it's actually very good because we'll be able to monitor that compliance, which is a significant investment that the AMR is making in that software.
Looks like a significant improvement from where we are today.
Yes, I think so. We
Yeah.
hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chief? Okay, I'll open it for a motion.
Make a motion, we approve agenda item number 24-186.
Second.
Okay, have a motion from Councilmember Jacobus and a second from Councilmember Cookerly to approve agenda item number 24-186. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Move on to council reports. Council have anything to report on? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to ask we adjourn, a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel, land acquisition, and litigation. Do I have a motion on that?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adjourn into executive session.
Second.
Okay, have a motion from Councilmember Cookerly and a second from Councilmember Johnson to adjourn into executive session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. We know when we're live, Tammy. We live? All right,
This is their equipment.
let's get Phil and Carrie on.
And so I don't want to.
Can I get a motion to reconvene?
Make a motion to reconvene.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.